and then eventually I was vice chair and chair of CAP. And CAP is an organization, and every university has a CAP of some sort. It's an organization of faculty of the entire university that looks at all promotion, right? And these kinds of councils are in place to provide an auditing function. They're to smooth out why one department will promote one person and another department won't promote another person that on paper really has the same kinds of bona fides. So these kinds of committees serve an auditing function. So this is who I am. I'm a reproductive neuroendocrinologist. I study sex. Unfortunately, it's in rodents. So it's not nearly as much fun as it could be, but I'm like Vivek. I am amazed that they give me money to come in every day and do whatever I want. And I'm constrained only by my ability to raise money to fund my toys, right? Because that's what it is. That's the only constraint. Yes, there are bad days. I have to sit and write a paper. I have to sit on a committee. But overall, this is a fantastic life. I don't think there's very many places other than the university that you can have such a fantastic life. And there are, I think the other thing that Viv said that I think you need to take home with you is something that the chair of the recruiting meeting at UCLA told me about 30 years ago. Oh, it's a long time. He said, a scientific career is not a sprint. It's a marathon. You have to figure out what it's going to take for you to be successful. It should take you an average no more than 10 hours a day. If you're spending more than 10 hours a day, maybe this isn't for you. Now, it's an average. There are times when you will be spending 12, 14, 20 hours a day working. And there are other days when you say, oh, it's going to be a short day. I'm only going to work 6 hours. But you need to establish a kind of balance that works for you. Don't look around. Don't look at somebody else and say, well, he's working 80 hours, so I should work 80 hours, or he's working, 2 hours a day, so that should be my model. Figure out what works for you, and then apply it. All right. So the topic of my talk is interdisciplinary effort or interdisciplinary research, and really what these promotions committees have a problem with is not really the interdisciplinary part of it. And we'll talk about, I think, both the mechanisms that most universities have to foster actually interdisciplinary research, but the issue of collaboration. And the issue of collaboration is, as I say, a hallmark of every major research university in the world. And it is because science is not a solitary activity. There are no monks in science, right? There was a monk a long time ago, but he worked with pea plants, and we don't do that. The interdisciplinary collaborative projects are the Bitcoin of the realm. It is what major universities want to push. It is because in the interstices of different disciplines is where the breakthroughs are going to come. So there are methods that the university does, especially the University of California does, to institutionalize and to foster interdisciplinary research. And how many of you are from University of California campuses? Okay, so a fair number. But most universities have these things. They have different names. We call them organized research units, ORUs. And at UCLA, this is the definition of an ORU. It's a structure to facilitate research, provide students with opportunities, and carry out public service programs across traditional disciplinary boundaries. ORUs are interdisciplinary in nature and work across the breadth of the UCLA campus. By definition, these ORUs do not have faculty lines. You can't be a faculty member in an ORU. You're a faculty member in a department. So although this is institutionalized, the resources in a lot of ways flow through departments. And I have to underline that because I'm chair, so I want to have those toys to play with. But at the same time, I want my faculty to be involved in as many of these interdisciplinary projects as possible. And at UCLA, this is just an eye candy slide to show you the kinds of interdisciplinary programs, ORUs, that we have. A lot of them are scientific in nature, but not all. There are ORUs in humanities that bring people together, that oftentimes have training grants. I, for example, am a member of the Brain Research Institute. There's a group within the Brain Research Institute called the Laboratory of Endocrinology. We've had a training grant for 35 years. That is the glue that holds that group together. We can talk all about how we have shared interest in how hormones or genes control brain and reproductive function, how they control other kinds of physiology. But the glue that holds that group together and has held that group together for 35 years is the fact that we have a training grant. And we have slots that people can have students and postdocs on. So that's incredibly important. All right, departmental support. So a lot of places now, UCLA being one of them, has embraced the idea of interdisciplinary research and formalized it in departmental structure. So for example, I use bioengineering. So this is part of the School of Engineering, but it is very much involved with the hospital, the medical school, the dental school, the School of Public Health, in order to come up with unique solutions to the problems that exist. In the medical school, I'm part of the medical school, we use a lot of joint or split appointments. And the terminology is unique maybe to the UC system. It's defined here, a split appointment refers to the practice of sharing a 10-year home. So for example, I just recruited someone with the Department of Biological Chemistry. We split that FTE, that faculty, full-time teaching equivalent, that faculty position. In the case of Weja, his primary department, his lead department, if you will, is biological chemistry. But he is reviewed in our department, he has to participate in our department, and if you are one of these people who have a split appointment, you have to be sure, that you are not being held to a greater standard, a double jeopardy between the two departments. Both departments want effort from you, but it should be half in one department and half in the other. Chairs are going to be helpful for that. They have to get together, they have to talk, they have to come up to a consensus about what your teaching is going to be, where you're going to do research, what committees you're going to sit on. But you, as the individual, must watch out for yourself. And I'm going to stress this over and over and over again because it's your career. Don't expect someone else to look out for you. As Vic said, the institutions don't love you back, right? Administrators, people like me, will always find something for you to do. And then we'll also come back and say, why haven't you written another paper? Right? So you have to be careful. Sometimes you have to be Nancy Reagan. She said, just say no. Right? You can do it nicely, and you can't do it all the time. But you do every once in a while have to watch out for yourself. Because if you don't, no one else will. So you need to find out how your department treats interdisciplinary research or even teaching in an environment that's not departmentally based. So it's not the research usually that's the problem, it's the teaching that's the problem. And every institution is going to require you to do some amount of teaching. And you need to find out what that level is and whether or not teaching, for example, in an interdepartmental IEP, interdepartmental program, is as valuable as in a departmental course. In a medical school, for example, teaching is not departmentally based. it's a complicated structure, but it's not departmentally based. And so it is up to you to make sure that you've been given credit on your dossier for the teaching that you do. So you have to be your own advocate. And finally, primarily in the graduate department, the pressure is to teach in departmental offerings more so than it is to teach in interdisciplinary programs. But if you have the conversation with your chair, your contribution will be recognized. So this is a I think this is a perceived tension between the entrenched disciplinary, departmentally based structures and the more holistic approach to research. I've been at UCLA for 33 years. I've collaborated with all kinds of people in all kinds of departments. It's never ever been an issue. And maybe it's because I've had unique chairs in the past, but I've always been encouraged to go out and look for that. So I think this entrenched disciplinary structure exists more in the humanities, where people are expected to go off and write a book, like Dante. We don't, as I said, there are no monks in science, so we work together. And this is just a little bit of a diagram of interaction of people in the Brain Research Institute and how they interact with one another. So you can see that there's a huge amount of interaction among the faculty and the students within UCLA in particular. But I think if people made these kinds of diagrams, you'd see it in every single institution. And finally, there is a huge pressure, both by NIH and with various private foundations, to come up with collaborative, interdisciplinary approaches to the problems that face our society and the medical community in particular. All right. Now it's time for the nitty gritty. So now you have to wake up and pay attention. Promotion. So I call the climb, if you will, for tenure, bowling for tenure. This is something that I coined when I was going up for tenure, and I have to tell you that although the tenure clock was always ticking in my head, that was some of the best time of my life. It was really fantastic. It was probably because I was building a lab. It was something brand new. I was building a research group, and my family was growing. So it was an exciting time. Was it a stress-free time? Absolutely not. I was always torn between spending too much time in the lab and not enough time at home, spending too much time at home and not enough time in the lab. And I think everybody goes through that stress. And as we said, you have to find that balance, and that balance will change as your kids grow. Within this bowling for tenure, as I call it, is a triad, and every institution has this triad, and it's composed of research primarily, teaching, and service. Research at a research university is paramount. You're not going to serve your way or teach your way to tenure. You're not going to serve your way or teach your way to full professor or whatever other promotion you hope to get. You need to be a good researcher. That's why you were hired. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You have to be a competent and good teacher, because promotions committees like the ones Micevych sits on will look at your teaching evaluation and comment on that, and it can impede you, but it won't be the thing that buoys you up and over the bar. Be a good citizen. You need to be collegial, you need to be interactive, and you need to sit on some committee. And this is where talking with your departmental chair can help. He or she can put you in touch with committees that require almost no work. Right? And And that's great when you're an assistant professor, because you need to be focusing on your research and your teaching. And as you mature, as you go up through the ranks, you will take on more and more of the responsibilities that a university expects of its faculty, because we are a faculty institution. If we abrogate as faculty our responsibilities, then full-time professional administrators will take over. And even though I'm a chair, I would prefer the faculty be in control of a university and not professional administrators. So CAP, I mentioned CAP. This is Council on Academic Personnel. It's a University of California specific designation, and it is not the Inquisition. I think a lot of people think it is the Inquisition. And it's not a star chamber. It's a group of 14 senior faculty members, often members who are still actively doing research, actively engaged in running the university. And so when they look at a dossier, it's not with some sort of pie in the sky attitude. They know what they're looking for. They know what kind of people they want to have with them. And they become very, very good at dissecting the wheat from the chaff. I usually use different words. But they're not out to get you. And there are precious little instances that I can think of where politics plays a role. They want to have a good university. That's what they're all about. They are for creating an excellent environment. And that excellent environment includes smart people who are engaged in the university and who bring a diversity of attitudes and cultures into the university. And they're very cognizant of that role. All right, independence. So this is a model of Titanic. This is an iceberg. And in the minds of most people, this is what happens to an academic career. It hits this iceberg that says you're not independent. All right, I love this. It's a very interesting phenomenon, because when I was on CAP, I first started on CAP, I went to the Academic Personnel Manual, which is a University of California-wide document. The call is specific for each campus. And neither in the Academic Personnel Manual nor in the call was there anything about independence. But all these tenure cases talk about independence. So there's a misconception of what it is and how important it is. So it's misunderstood to mean that a candidate, the person going up for tenure, must work alone. Doesn't have to work alone. Nobody expects you to work alone. And so at UCLA, CAP, just I think within the last couple of years, defined what it means in terms of independence. And so it means collaborative efforts are strongly encouraged and are becoming essential for multidisciplinary, high-technology research that characterizes modern biomedical science. For instance, and also are commonplace among many other fields of academic pursuit. CAP recognizes that a faculty member's entire scholarly productivity may be as part of a collaborative team, in which case evidence of a unique and essential contribution is considered equivalent to independence. All right. Specifically saying you don't have to run off and be the lone cowboy riding across the prairie, shooting the bad guys with your 6-shooter. You can be part of the cavalry. So why is there a problem? There is a problem because the people's contribution within a large group, or within even a smaller group, are not well described, not well articulated. And so what you need to do is you need, in your self-statement, or as one of my colleagues referred to it, the self-serving statement, Describe what it is that you have done within this group. Describe your story, because that's what you're doing when you're building an academic career. You're building a story. So when people think of a particular kind of research, they think of your name, and that's the goal. When you get letters from senior collaborators, ask them to spell out what your contribution was. If they're at the UC, they understand the importance of this. At some of the universities, maybe they don't. They have to be encouraged to do that. Don't be shy about doing that. The departmental committee needs to articulate what it is that makes your contribution essential in that group. And the chair has a responsibility, again, to articulate the value that you bring to a collaborative team. And what kind of hard evidence can you bring to that? So one of the reasons careers falter on that rock or iceberg of independence is that evidence of a leadership role is missing. So how do you provide that evidence? So you can do that by every once in a while taking the lead on a publication or being the senior in my field, and I think in most biomedical fields, the last author of a paper. So when we look at a dossier and there are no first author or senior author publications, people start to question whether you're not, whether you're independent, whether you're simply a cog in a very large machine. Get a grant or several. Your PI and I want to echo what I heard earlier this morning. It's not that CAB is interested in how much money you have. It's that this is another form of peer review. And it recognizes that you can be the PI, that you are an independent thinker, that you can put together a program, and it rewards that. But having said that, I'm always reminded of what Stalin said, and this is about money, and Stalin said that quantity has a quality all its own. If you have a huge amount of money, shiny objects dazzle people, and review committees too. Some journals now ask the various authors to specify their contributions. That's actually very, very valuable for the tenure process because it's been put into place and it's in print and it's clearly articulated. So that's really it. And so universities are looking for creative intellectual leaders, and that's what they're looking for when they talk about independence. They're not talking about you going off into a cell and working by yourself. They're talking about you being creative and being a leader. And if you do that, then you rise to the mountaintop of the academic world. I don't know why I put that in there, but it's a nice way to end it. So thank you very much.